Good afternoon, Tess Crawley here, coming live to you today. It's a beautiful but windy late winter's afternoon here in Hobart. If you've not met me before, I thought it's probably about time I introduced who I am. You might not have seen one of my videos before. My name obviously is Tess Crawley. I'm the director and founder of Dr. Tess Crawley and Associates Clinical Psychology Practice here in Hobart. We also have an office in Launceston. It's been up there for about a year now. We also are the parent organisation for Hobart Perinatal Psychology and also for Rural Psychology Tasmania, and they each have their own websites and Facebook pages that you can have a look at if you're interested. I have been a psychologist for quite some time now, and a lot of the work that I do these days is mostly with perinatal clients, so those who are contemplating having a child or are pregnant or are in the adjustment phase of becoming parents. But I have done a lot of work over the years, as have my team of clinicians, and there's 15 of us actually across the whole practice. My team of clinicians and I have done a lot of work with a whole range of people from various age brackets, various backgrounds, with all sorts of different issues that they might be battling in their day-to-day lives. Today I wanted to follow up though on a video that I did a couple of days ago. So 2 or 3 days ago I posted a video looking at anxiety. So if you scroll back through our Facebook feed, it might even be on my website by now, there is a video, Anxiety 1, and that is all about what anxiety is. And in that video I talk about the fight or flight reaction, which is a very normal and natural response that the brain kicks the body into action when we are facing a threat. So when you're in danger, your body gets yourself ready to go, fight or flee from that dangerous or scary situation. There is a third option, and we can be a little bit animal-like in our third response, which is to freeze. So for some people who've experienced extremely traumatic events, they sometimes report later that they felt incapacitated by the fear response, that they were not able to do anything. So if you think from an evolutionary perspective, it's a little bit like a mouse playing dead. When they're being attacked by a cat loses interest, goes away, and then the mouse hops up and scurries off. So that's the fight or flight reaction. So if you go back to that first video, you'll see a bit more information about that reaction there. Today I wanted to talk about how do we manage those symptoms when it's not actually a danger situation. In a danger situation, fight or flight is very, very helpful. It prepares us to escape, helps us survive. It's one of our survival instincts, in fact. But in the absence of actual danger, that fight or flight response in its full-blown capacity is a panic, what we call a panic attack, and at lower scale intensity. We're talking about that gnawing, anxious feeling that we can get. So you imagine you've just gone to check your mail and then all of a sudden out of the blue there's a phone bill that's enormous that you just weren't expecting, and it sets your heart aflutter and you catch your breath and you, oh my goodness, and all sorts of thoughts then race through your mind. So when we as psychologists and mental health workers are treating anxiety, and remember this is one of the most common things that we work with, by the way, we will take a 2 or 3 pronged approach. So we look at letting the clients know what anxiety is. We give them some strategies to work with those physical symptoms that they're experiencing. And then typically once the client has those skills under their belt, then I will often incorporate then some cognitive work. So looking at the thinking patterns that might be exacerbating or perpetuating those anxious experiences. I'll talk about the cognitive stuff in another video. Today I wanted to talk to you about the physical symptoms and what we do to manage those. One of the very simplest things we can do is recruit our breathing as a strategy to overcome the fight or flight response. Now it seems like a really obvious thing. People will say, just take a deep breath. There's a bit more to it than just take a deep breath. When you're anxious and you just take a deep breath, your shoulders come up to your ears. You're gasping. Your brain interprets that as my goodness, this fright, this danger is enormous. So that can exacerbate the fight or flight reaction. It can trip you over into hyperventilating, so get you right in the guts of a panic attack. When we talk about breathing as a management strategy, what we're actually doing is we're doing two things. We're asking you to recruit the body's breath as a physiological tool to wind back that anxiety reaction. So you remember I talked last time about when we're really, really anxious, we get that fright, our breathing and our heart rate become quite fast, our breath gets fast and shallow, and the idea is that in combination with a high heart rate, you're getting freshly oxygenated blood into your big muscles so you can fight off or run from whatever it is that's causing this sense of threat. When we do the opposite, so we slow our breathing down and get it away from our upper chest, get it back down lower to our diaphragm. So if I step back on my tippy toes, diaphragm's about here. The diaphragm's job is to expand and contract your chest wall when you're breathing. But when we're anxious, our breath scoots up to our upper chest and we notice that our shoulders are doing a lot more work when we're puffing and panting and hyperventilating. So if we can get that breath back down to our diaphragm, slowing it down, being really consciously aware that we're engaging the diaphragm in the breath, what then happens is that sends a signal back to the brain. It tells the brain the danger has passed. She's calming down. We can call off the troops. And what we find then is the cortisol, so stress hormone levels, will reduce. Your heart rate will follow your breathing, so your heart rate will slow down. And all the other symptoms of anxiety will start to follow what the breath is doing. Now, we can actually induce a panic attack. If I train you, well, I'm not going to do it, but if I train you to breathe nice and fast and shallow up here, and I say, keep going, keep going, keep going, we can bring on a panic attack. So by slowing the breath, we're doing the exact opposite. We're tricking the brain. We're assuming that the brain has made a mistake, has labelled the situation we're in as dangerous. We're playing along. We're saying, okay, brain, in this dangerous situation, we're going to now tell you that that danger has gone. And the only way we can communicate that information to that amygdala, the little bit in the middle of the brain that I was talking about last time, the only way we can communicate directly with the amygdala is physiologically. So we use the breath as a messenger to tell the brain to settle down. Just using our words and our thoughts to tell the amygdala to calm down doesn't work. And if you experience anxiety, you probably know that already. Just telling yourself to calm down doesn't work. So we use the breath, and the breath is a really powerful messenger to tell the amygdala that everything's okay, we can calm down now. It's really hard in the middle of a panic attack to remember to do that. So what you want to do is you want to practice and practice and practice that calm diaphragm breathing as often as you can remember it throughout the day. Now, you don't need to set aside time to do this. I know for a fact, if I tell you to practice your breathing for half an hour every day, you won't do it. I can't find half an hour to just breathe. So I don't tell clients to do that. What I tell clients to do is peg it to something that you're going to do every day. It might be simple as going to the toilet, or it might be every time you check Facebook, or it might be while you're standing waiting for the kettle to boil. During those moments in the day, let those be a reminder to you to just touch base with your breathing. What I mean is just poke yourself in the middle of the diaphragm and just feel and notice how that muscle moves. You can feel it when you're breathing. Noticing that muscle moving in and out as you're breathing. And if you're breathing nice and calm from your diaphragm, sorry if I'm wobbling, I'm standing on my tiptoes so you can see. If you're breathing nice and calm from your diaphragm, you'll feel that muscle moving in and out. And just pay attention to that for a minute. That's all it takes. And if you do that once or twice a day, every day, you'll start to notice when your breathing changes. So when anxiety is creeping up on you, you'll start to be able to tell that it's coming. You might, at the moment, think that anxiety comes out of the blue without any warning. But usually, if we know what to look for, we can see some warning signs. So by focusing our attention on our breathing once or twice a day, it's sometimes called mindful breathing. So you might have heard that phrase mindfulness before, really engaging your mind fully focused on that breathing. If you do that a couple of times every day, you'll get better at it. and you'll get more aware of what's going on in your body. You'll start to notice when anxiety is starting to escalate. And then's the time to really focus on that breath. And you'll start to find, the more you practice that you'll get really good at unwinding that anxiety. So the likelihood of it flipping into a really big panic attack is greatly reduced. So typically with a client that I'm working with anxiety experiences, I will talk them through what I did in the first video, educate them about what anxiety is, let them know what's going on in their body. And when I talk about those physical symptoms, most people can relate to that quite closely. Then I teach them that breathing strategy. And I say, what I want you to do now is go home, play around with that. Try it in all sorts of different settings. Try it when you're doing the dishes. Try it when you're lying down in bed. Try it when you're on the loo. Try it when you're at work, and so on. Get used to the idea of touching base with that breathing, finding out what's going on in your own body. Play around with calming yourself down, and don't just play around with that with anxiety. If you notice you're getting angry, remember fight or flight. When we're getting something's bothering us, it can flip us into an anger mode just as much as it could flip us into an anxiety mode. Play around with the different negative emotions and see what you can do with unwinding that physiological response. See if you can calm yourself down. It's a really good one for parents. See if you can calm yourself down using your breathing before reacting to what your kids might be up to. So that's your homework. I want you to all play around with that breathing. Give it a go. See what you discover about yourself. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd really love to know what you find when you try that for yourself. A lot of people have tried all sorts of different relaxation strategies, and the number one complaint I hear from people is that they don't have time to sit with those strategies because they're too long. So this is a really short, sharp thing that you do a bunch of times throughout the day, just whenever you think of it. There's no rules, no number of times you should or shouldn't do it. It's up to you. Play around with it, explore it. Let me know how you go. Now, if you know some people in your life, some friends or family who you think might benefit from this little exercise, feel free to share the video amongst your friends on Facebook or Twitter or wherever else, and let them know this is something they can play around with too. And I will be back in a few more days, and we'll talk again about anxiety, and I'll talk to you then about how we work then with the thoughts that come and go in our minds, that play around with us and mess us around when we think we're getting on top of something. There might be those sneaky little thoughts that slot in there and pull us back. So I'm going to help you work around those as well. That's it from me today. So what I'd really love to know is how much you may or may not be liking these videos. So please let me know if you give the video a like or a love. That will let me know how many of you are appreciating what the information is, if it's helpful for you. Do let me know your comments and your thoughts, and certainly your questions. If you've got questions, I'm happy to answer those. And in future videos, if you haven't joined me live before, please let me know that you're watching. If you're watching live, say hello, don't be afraid. And I'll say hello back, I promise. And I will talk to you all very soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.